Recording in progress.
Just based on
We knew that.
Good morning.
Thinks about things.
Good morning. Oh, you have to pull that thing out. Good morning, everyone, and we will go ahead and call our meeting to order. It's Thursday, May 14th, 9:01, and please take roll.
Certainly. Director Ames.
Here.
Director Flores.
here.
Director Foley.
Present.
Director Ghosh.
Here.
Here.
Director Rayburn.
Here.
Director Ridd. He's absent today. Vice President Wright.
Here.
President Hernandez.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, and then we will go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this morning, we have some special guests. Today, we're joined by two special guests, Melissa Anguiano and Cristabella Garcia, representing 826 Valencia. The San Francisco-based nonprofit recently partnered up with the BART Communications and BART Art program to launch BART Lines 826 Valencia. The project brings BART-themed students writing to BART's short story dispensers, including a new dispenser at the San Leandro, as well as the train car post. More than 100 students ages 9 to 18 participated in this project, which centers BART as both subject and muse and is bringing joy and whimsy to our system. Welcome, Melissa and Cristabel.
Hi, Jennifer Easton, Art Program Director. Before we get Melissa and Cristabel up here, I just wanted to further on your comments that this is indeed our third BART Lines project, where we bring in local writers into our story machines, and so it's been a really great way for us to connect with the writers in our community. And this time, we also generated these wonderful car cards, which are on the system. This is a first for us, and so we hope you get a chance to see them as well. And now, Melissa and Cristabel, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cristabel. I'm the communications coordinator at 826 Valencia, and Melissa is the programs manager of our after-school and evening tutoring program at our mission center. This collaboration with BART has been wonderful. We've really had a lot of fun, especially our students. And when we started the collaboration, Michelle visited and she talked to our students about BART. She showed them some examples from previous collaborations and short story dispenser writing. And she handed them postcards with a BART stamp, plus party stickers and some coloring pages. Needless to say, the students were very excited and they asked a lot of questions, and then they had about a week to tackle their projects. So in the communications team, when we initially approached our program staff, we asked them to come up with curriculum for the project specifically around BART. So our programs implemented writing lessons with specific prompts. Our Mission Center After School and Evening Tutoring program created a writing packet with two different writing options. There was a poetry-focused packet and then a news story packet. And this is the one that our student William, who you will see performing shortly, selected for his piece. Melissa now is going to tell you a little bit more about William and the writing project. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Melissa, and I'm a programs manager at our Mission Center at 826 Valencia. And through this partnership, I've had the pleasure of seeing our students engage creatively in expressing their ideas, and in this partnership, getting to see them express their ideas around their experiences on BART and imagining different worlds that BART could take them. And it's been really great to see the students begin the process of brainstorming and creating those ideas for this project, and then as a result, seeing their writing of their own, as well as their peers on BART dispensers, on BART posters. And one of our students, Javier, he's an 8th grader, and he's a big BART fan. He was really excited when we shared the news that we were going to be partnering with BART for this new writing project. And his news story that he wrote is titled A 23.5-hour one-way ride to Juba, Souk Sudan under the sea. Have to check that out. And it's actually one of the 20 selected pieces on BART about this transatlantic trip that BART will take you to. when we were able to share the news with him that he was one of the selected students and his piece was going to be out in the world on BART, he was ecstatic, very excited to share the news with his sibling in our program as well as his family as they came to pick him up. So that's just like, one of the students that was really excited about this partnership, but many of our students were excited to be able to write and express through this project. And for this project, the BART curriculum varied a little bit depending on the program, the age group that students part of that program were working on. But the three key components around our writing instruction at 826 Valencia are around brainstorming, drafting, and revising, all while they work alongside tutors to support them through each step of the process and really building their writing skills. And this is a process that our 5th grade student, William, who you'll be watching him perform in just a little bit, he chose to do a wacky news story where he imagined and created a new destination that BART would take him and his friends and take all the other passengers. And for him, this was Chocolate Land. After working alongside his tutor to complete his news story with vivid detail, he rehearsed his piece, BART Can Carry You to Chocolate Land. And we're just really excited that we were able to have this opportunity for all of our students. So thank you, BART, for this wonderful opportunity for collaborating and amplifying our student voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Did any directors have any comments or questions? Okay, all right, perfect.
Hi, my name is William Gonzalez. I am 11 years old and I go to Cesar Chavez Elementary School. My title is BART Can Carry You to Chocolate Land. Have you ever wanted to go to a place where there's a lot of chocolate? You can go now since BART can transfer you there. Today, BART decided to collaborate with Willy Wonka and they made Chocolate Land. BART is taking passengers to Chocolate Land. You can even eat the chocolate. Even the train is chocolate. Chocolate Land smells sweet like chocolate cake when it's baking. They sell all kinds of chocolate. White, dark, mint, milk, you name it. But there's a special event too. It's going to be on Halloween. Everything's gonna be free. It's great to be here, said Fred, who is 9 years old. But it's all chocolate. Where's the fun? That's why we built a roller coaster. It's a 300-foot tall roller coaster that will scare you into fun. So if you like roller coasters and chocolate, consider going to Chocolate Land.
That's cute. Do we have any? That's okay, perfect. That was a really good show. We should have had him come on stage over here. But no, it's exciting. It's exciting to get so many younger generation involved. And it's something different, and I love the fact that we keep doing this and thinking outside of the box. But so thank you to staff for bringing that forward. It does look like we have a person, Alita, that would like to speak.
Yes, on this item only. Alita Dupree.
Good morning, Alita.
Thank you. Good morning, President Melissa Hernandez and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds representing Skirt Folds. Thank you for starting the meeting off this way. I like starting meetings off where we can elevate things. I was in New York and I went to the New York Transit Museum, and they often have displays of artwork by children and people who are older, both in visual artwork and in writing. Amazing stuff. I don't know if any of you ever been to the Transit Museum, but that museum is not just about displaying old subway cars and other historical artifacts, but it's about current engagement. And I am looking forward to seeing the little machines again with the with the printouts of the stories. And I think we should also have QR codes, because sometimes what happens is I get the paper stories and I end up not reading them, and then I accidentally throw them away, and I miss out what I could have had. I wish I had these things when I was younger. I wish I'd been able to write stories of the subway. Instead, I was skipping fare on the subway in 1980 and 81, and nobody should be skipping fare on public transportation. So we want to keep people engaged. And yes, I have seen many times the original Willy Wonka film of Mr. Willy Wonka and his adventures of making chocolate and inviting children and their families to his historic factory in Brooklyn, New York, not far from the Williamsburg Bridge. But what I would like to see come out of this to bring to these very bright and engaging young folks is the idea that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. And it's never too late. You can still, come up and be creative and create your own poems as well. So don't give up. I know that Director Ghosh wanted to say a few words.
Thank you. What a delightful way to start the meeting. Truly believe what Alita said. I wish we could start every meeting with the poem from a young person. I just am so happy with this collaboration. 826 Valencia is an iconic organization, and BART is iconic, and to see two icons come together to do this is fantastic. I think even the graphics that y'all have up there is really beautiful. I run a South Asian history walking tour, and on our mission tour, we actually stop at 826 Valencia and talk about a pirate and connect it to the pirate store. We've had events at 826 Valencia related to like South Asian women's performance. It's just such a beloved institution for me. So I wasn't expecting, I'm really happy to see this collaboration. So thank you to everyone who worked on it, and especially the young folks being open to, bringing their talents to BART. Thank you.
I just wanted to add my voice to the gratitude for this partnership, for all the kids that participate in it. 826 Valencia is such a gem for San Francisco, for the entire Bay Area, and just what a perfect partner for this collaboration. Thank you, Alicia, for continuing your work on this. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity these kids get. I'm so grateful for the opportunity our passengers get to experience their creativity. I know that's something I've enjoyed personally. And I'm also someone that was introduced to creative writing when I was a kid, and that was such a transformational impact on my life. So really, really appreciate we're doing what we can to support that here.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
I want to thank Jennifer Easton, Kristen, Melissa, and of course, William. You're really tugging at my heart. Last night, by coincidence, I used the BART app and put in See's Candy, San Francisco, as my destination. And in 15 minutes from my front door in the Fruitvale, I was at See's Candy above the Montgomery station, picking up chocolates for my transitional kindergarten class that I volunteer with. And it's just a coincidental thing, but chocolates everywhere. Thank you.
I was wondering where RC's candy was this morning. So any of the directors wanted to give me? Again, thank you again. Again, I love the thinking out of the box, and keep it going. And again, Alicia, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I will go ahead and go to item number 2, which is our report of the board president. At the GM's request, we will pull item 3G from the agenda. Staff will bring this item back to the board at a future meeting. I would also like to remind the board and the public that the staff will be bringing the year-ending 27 annual budget for adoption at the June 11th, 2026 board meeting. So that was just a reminder for everyone. We will go ahead and move on to our consent calendar.
And we do have one public comment on the report of the president.
Okay.
Barty Spitz. Barty?
my name is Barney Smith. I'm a licensed professional engineer with over 25 years experience as a BART engineer and fire life safety expert. Thank you, President Hernandez, for your announcements today. Once again, I would like to ask you and the BART board to establish a separate subcommittee on the BART to Silicon Valley Phase 2 project. With the project's decision to upgrade to the 2026 codes and standards, it should be clear that VTA does not have a design. And with these code changes and upgrades, they will not have a design for about 3 years. I sent 2 emails recently with information on the 1979 Transbay Tube Fire and fire testing of various transit vehicles, including BART's Fleet of the Future. I would expect that the board has questions about safety of BART patrons. The 10,000-foot-long tunnels, 100 feet underground, will never be as safe as the current BART tunnels. Why is BART allowing VTA to design stations that will require BART patrons to climb 10 flights of stairs to exit safely to the surface? Why did the project remove critical emergency exits from the tunnels? By extending the distance between cross passages from 300 feet to 500 feet, this removes exits and reduces safety, which will likely lead to fatalities in an emergency. The overly complex emergency ventilation system deleted critical vent structures in 2023 without a vote of the safety committee. This ventilation design lacks system redundancy and utilizes 500 horsepower fans, which are very difficult to start and operate. The BART tunnel ventilation system utilizes 85 horsepower fans, these are more critical safety reductions that need to be reviewed by this board. The BSV2 project is not what the board voted to support in 2018. When will this board insist on regular updates? When is this board going to fully update to the 20-year current delayed project? Thank you.
And that was the last comment. On to the consent calendar now. Oh, yes. That was the last public comment.
Because I see Alita still up here.
Oh. Okay, sorry. She just
It's okay.
popped up. Alita?
Yeah, I don't know how the timing's right. I'm going to speak on consent, so I'm going to lower my hand and try again.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we will go to item number 3, which is our consent calendar, and we, Director Foley would like to pull item 3E. Right?
Correct.
All right.
Did you want me to discuss that now, or did you
Well,
want
so I wanted
The
to.
motion for
Thank you.
items A, C, D, E, F, and H.
No, it was A, B, C, D, and F.
E,
Leave
F,
out E.
and
All
H.
items except E.
E. G. All items. I left out G. Yes. It was correct.
I will make the motion to approve A, B, C, D, F, and H. Can I have a second on that, please?
Second.
B, C.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Director Ames.
Yes.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Ghosh.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
Director Reed's absent. Director Wright. Vice President
Aye.
Wright. President Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. So we will bring up item 3E.
Thank you, Madam President.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we not taking comment on the items that were just voted on?
Oh my God.
Let's take the public comment.
Well, we'll go ahead and take the public comment, but go ahead.
Thank you, President Hernandez and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. I was hoping that I would have been able to speak on that slate of items that you just voted on, but I'll speak now anyway. I guess our procedures have changed. The 2 items that I wanted to speak on are about the train control, and this is very important. And certainly, in my support of this, I would like to see us talk more about this. This is about the nitty-gritty with some axle modifications. which are certainly a part of train control, because part of train control is an interface between the vehicles and the trackway system. And I'm very excited about communications-based control. And we have to keep highlighting this. I am really looking forward to us experiencing this on our BART. And how do we convey what this will look like? Because I experienced communications-based train control quite a bit in my times in New York City, mostly on the L and then on the sections of the 8th Avenue and Queens Boulevard lines, and on the 7th. So we can bring this here to our BART. And so I enlighten you that consent items may seem routine, but they are no less important. And train control is something I'm very passionate about because I believe it will bring a better experience to our BART. These things I share with you as I know. This is all the consent speaking I'm going to do today. And this reflects that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Director Foley, item 3E.
Thank you, Madam President. I asked that we pull item 3E because I'd like to make an amendment. Back in 2021, I expressed concern over contracting out this work and wanted to see it ultimately moved in-house. Contracting out should be used for short-term needs, not regular day-to-day work. We should train staff to perform this work that will be needed in perpetuity. We own these buildings. We should own this work. So I'm offering the following amendment, and that is 1-year contracting out extension through July of 2027. Meet and confer with ASME about bringing property management work in-house for BHQ, our BART headquarters, and the BART Police Department headquarters 6 months prior to expiration of the contract extension. Offer training this year to staff for the BHQ and BPDHQ property management duties, and make the best efforts to expand or hire internally property management roles for these 2 facilities. So that is my amendment.
Second.
Oh. Did you have something? I don't have a problem with that. The one thing that I do want to make sure, Director Foley and the rest of the board, is that, like you said, and I am glad that you added the training portion of it, because I want to make sure that whoever is, running these facilities, that they are well-trained, and so that, we can be able to have a process that have a second person in command just in case something happens, and have those strategies and those different situations that come up, and making sure that the right people are in there. And so I just want to make sure that if we're going to say train, then we need to make sure we follow through with training.
Agreed.
All right. So are there any public comment?
There are no public comments.
No public comment. Okay.
No.
All right. So not seeing any public comment, did you want any of our staff to go over this contract at all?
I'm ready for a vote.
Okay, perfect. So not seeing any public comment, we will go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Okay, with a motion by Director Foley and a second by Director Rayburn. Director Ames.
And we want to make sure and clear that it was on his amendment that was already motioned and second. Perfect.
Yes. Director Ames.
Yes.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Ghosh.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
Vice President Wright.
Aye.
President Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, colleagues.
All right, so item number 4 is our general manager's report. And we'll let our general manager go ahead and go.
Yeah. Thank you, President Hernandez, members of the BART Board, Bob Powers, BART General Manager. A couple updates here. Always start with ridership. April ridership outperformed expectations. We're 7% above budget and 11% higher than a year ago for the month of April. Fiscal year to date, we're sitting roughly 8% above budget and 12% higher than the same period a year ago. And it's, back to the singular focus of improving the rider experience is what's driving those ridership numbers. Here's an example of that. Here's Beta Breakers is Sunday. That's this Sunday, Beta Breakers. The race starts before the 8 a.m. Sunday opening. We're offering special limited express service to get participants to Embarcadero for the 7 a.m. race start. We're going to run 4 trains with limited stops from the following stations. It's Millbrae, Daly City, 16th, El Cerrito del Norte, Pleasant Hill, MacArthur, Dublin Pleasanton, Bayfair, and West Oakland. All of this is up on our website. It's easily accessible. It's easy to find. And it's also on the Beta Breakers website to encourage folks to take transit to the race. And so pretty well coordinated there. I guess a week from today is our Small Business Summit. It's here in this room at BART headquarters from 9 till 12. The summit is going to provide small businesses with an opportunity to engage with BART buyers, project managers, prime contractors. It's a good meet and greet and start and to continue to establish relationships. And so all the information went out, and I believe you've all been notified on that. It's a week from today here at BART headquarters. So yesterday we held our town hall meeting that I presided over with our executive staff. The program was solicited from comments that we sent. We asked our employees what they would like to talk about and what they would like to have an exchange about. So we had our spring town hall yesterday. It was super well attended. This boardroom was crazy packed. And there was probably, 600 people online. I think we were pushing, 700, almost 800 people for that Zoom town hall meeting. Pretty good back and forth. And we're going to continue to do those. The next one is going to be in the fall. And the transparency is there. The partnership is there. The family connection is there. So I just want you to know that was held. And I think that the recording of that town hall is going to be posted on our intranet, available for staff that wasn't attended. But it was a good thing. It was good for me. Take Our Kids to Work Today was another record-setting performance by BART. Just 2 weeks ago, I guess at the last BART board meeting, was our Take Our Kids to Work Today. Anybody want to, except Foley, want to guess how many kids attended? Foley, you're procured. 400. Yeah, right, exactly, right. There you go. That's awesome. Thank you for reading those emails. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we had 400 kids attend. That's crazy good, right? I mean, and again, we just heard about, Alicia and brought up the art program and reading the poems and all that. It is about strengthening pride in our organization and in the community, and this is just another example of that. And it didn't happen without the commitment from workforce development. I see Rosalind sitting back there. The workforce development rolls up under Roz Bolds, who is head of HR. So Roz, just stand up for a second there. I know I'm she put this all together. It is a little important, and I do take some, liberties as the general manager, but Roz, just a job really well done, and you kind of set the bar pretty high, so we'll see what you do next year. TOD and station outreach planning. I know we have a closed session on TOD later today, but we had 3 events, successful outreaches this week at Hayward and Bayfair for our TOD projects. And then Director Wright, we had our 16th Street redesign outreach plaza event. The feedback is going to help us develop goals and objectives for the TODs, and as we redefine, conceptually ideas for the plaza there to engage there and activate that plaza. We've got a lot of community interest on all 3 of them, and at the Hayward project, we had over 190 attendees. That's crazy. for that. And so I just wanted to kind of walk you through that. And I got one more. Again, President Hernandez, if you'll indulge with me, will you give me the floor for a minute? I'm going to do something out of character for me. I'm going to do a little modeling. Is that all right?
Will be very interesting.
Yes, this will be very interesting. What I'm doing here, I don't know if you can still hear me. This is the the calendar year 2026, coming up, ugly sweater. And so the point on this, on me switching my jacket to this, is a couple of things. Every one of you know how hot of a ticket these sweaters are.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's the hottest, it's hotter than a Oscars ticket. And
I don't know about that.
this is a collage. They got some speaking notes here. I can't even, all these big words. A collage of all of our other sweaters. This is the one I have. This is the OG. This is the one.
Can you please stand up?
Yes, ma'am. You want back to the modeling, right? Okay. There you go. I'll just turn around a little bit like that. And it's really, it's quite nice. You know, it's almost moving away from the ugly sweater thing, but it's really a nice thing. And here's what the takeaway, other than my modeling skills. Next Friday, 1 week from tomorrow, we're going to launch our pre-sale. So folks got to get ready for that, right? The BART board, that's you, and BART staff will have early access, I hope you're all writing this down, to pre-order beginning, you get 1 day access ahead of the general public. So you get access on Thursday, 1 week from today, March 21st, and the orders are going to ship in September, so you'll have them for the holiday season, okay? And last year we sold, I don't want to ask here because Director Ghost probably read this email too, almost 3,000 sweaters, and we turned a profit of just under $100,000, $76,000 profit on these. It's you know, well, that's not, it is, it's good. It's pride in BART, it's pride in the community. And so anyway, next Friday, they go live, pre-order for the public. You get a 1 day advance, as everybody at BART employees get a 1 day advance. And so with that, I appreciate you allowing me to just kind of frame this up. You know, 76,000 is quite the good profit.
Yeah, and it's so hard to tell when it's going to be like 80 degrees out here to wear that sweater out. But you scared me for a minute when you said, let me indulge you. But no, great job. Thank you, everyone. Thank you that's participated in creating. So is this kind of like where we get ideas from staff and they bring
staff and the public? I guess it all, I know Rod can come up to the mic here, or somebody smarter than me on the thing, but the whole concept of the ugliest sweater, and you know, we're always trying to one up the ugly, you know, and it's just grown to this, you know, this culture of like, what are we doing with the ugly sweater this year? What are we doing? What do we do? You know, and it's the, you know, the pride in BART thing, you know, and it's awesome. So
it's definitely a big deal, and I will tell you, even folks that don't always take BART wear the Christmas sweater. Like, it's a big deal. So
yeah.
I get compliments on mine every year that I wear it. Yeah. But thank you, and I appreciate
and
it.
happy to take questions on the general manager's report, President
All right,
Hernandez.
any questions? Any public comment?
Yes, we have 3 public comments. The first is Glenn Overton. Glenn?
Good morning.
Does he want one of these sweaters? Get Rod to pay for
it. Good morning, Director Hernandez, directors, General Manager Powers, and your sweater. I mean, your staff. Sorry about, I'm blinded. I have some notes here, but I don't know what to say. Such a striking sweater, but such a striking community. Bay Area, believe it or not, is a community, a 9-county community. This community takes pride in how the least of us get around. I want you to think about that for a second. They say stuff rolls down hills, but good stuff rolls down hills too. This general manager and his staff and this board of directors have provided a much safer environment for our riders. Every rider can feel taken care of, safe, getting from A to B just as they have left A and returning to A. I'm proud of our transit, but I would like to say it's not perfect. Perfection is something we strive for. And so we should continue to improve our system. Thank you.
We have two more speakers, Barty Smits, followed by Alita Dupree. Barty, please go ahead.
My name is Barney Smits. I'm a licensed professional engineer with over 25 years experience as a BART engineer and fire life safety expert. Thank you, General Manager Powers, for your comments on ridership and public events. The next VTA BART joint meeting on the BSV2 project is a week from tomorrow. When will you be providing the board with updates on VTA and the BSV2 project? The board seems to be getting more information on the BSV2 in letters and emails from me. I would recommend that you brief the board on VTA's and Santa Clara County's $787 million financial disaster. The current single board design is significantly over budget, 15 years behind schedule, and a significant safety risk. The reduction in emergency exits, emergency ventilation facilities, ultra-long tunnels, and significantly deeper stations will put BART patrons, employees, and first responders at significant risk. With your support, VTA continues to waste millions of dollars every month reducing criteria, codes, and standards while trying to fund this mistaken design. Will you prepare the board members of the BSV2 committee to stand up for BART, improve safety, and reject these deviations from BART standards? The project's mismanagement, lack of transparency and oversight, and deviations from state, federal, and BART's safety standards may be the reason that the BSV2 project is doing significant damage to BART's reputation. Why would you be allowing VTA to undercut BART's safety standards? Per the 2001 Comprehensive Agreement, this is a BART project. It states BART has ultimate authority over maintenance, operations, and safety. What this means is that BART management and this board will be held accountable for poor maintenance, all operational delays, and all safety emergency events. BART's board must be prepared to go to this meeting next week with facts, evidence, and a plan to increase safety and protect BART's patrons, employees, and first responders. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Alita Dupree. Alita?
Thanks again, President Melissa Hernandez and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. A good report. Thank you on ridership. It's coming up. And I'm very interested in this special service. We're going to be running express service, New York style, like they do in New York with the express routes. Give people a taste of express service that you find all over New York City. I've never been to Beta Breakers, but Beta Breakers highlights the diversity of our beloved Bay Area. And I can't run anymore, but if I could, I would enter the race, and I would wear a knee-length skirt with folds along with leggings, because I think the best skirts have folds. So we want to take care of our customers that day and giving them the very best of New York style express service. And thank you for the engagement in town halls. And we had our Bring Our Kid to Work Day meeting, and I shared on that from the streets of Lower Manhattan. So we want to stay engaged with that. And I'm very excited about the prospect of the ugly sweaters. I was in New York, and they did have some left over at the Transit Museum store in Brooklyn. And I'm hoping next year they'll get one that says Grand Central. But I was in the museum store in Grand Central Terminal, and I did buy a shirt that says Grand Central, and I wore it to the series of MTA board meetings at number 2 Broadway, and I began my public speaking where I would say, Grand Central! And highlighting that you can never have enough Grand Central Terminal. So I'm excited about what you'll do with the ugly sweaters, because they can reflect the idea that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
That was the
Thank you,
last.
Lita.
Excuse me. That was the last public comment.
Thank you. Director Ames.
Sorry, thank you. So yes, Bob, I do appreciate Barney reminding us about the meeting next week. And I guess we're also thinking about having a tour. So.
That's correct.
Okay, so we're going to have a potential
Meeting
tour
is the 22nd. Materials should be posted. You know, I've had 2 meetings with the VTA general manager, one in person Monday, one yesterday. Both of them north of an hour, going over the deck and materials. And Bob Franklin, we're going to get something to our district secretary. Our district secretary is going to post the materials up, and then their district secretary will post their materials up, and we're all set for this Friday. And then there is a tour of the launch pit, those directors who want to participate.
Thank you. That should be very interesting. And I do want to convey my frustration about trying to get the variance information, the design criteria variances. I think I recall having a meeting maybe a couple years ago. I think Michael Jones and you, Bob, were there with Carolyn. It was a small group in VTA headquarters. But I was asking directly to VTA to provide some more information on the variances. So I'm not sure what the issues are. Maybe we can just have some general information on it. Maybe they think it's too sensitive and we don't want to get into too many details. But it would be good to get some higher level variance breakdown.
Okay, let me talk to the general manager down at VTA and see if we can't navigate it, at least introduce it or navigate a bit of that into the meeting on the 22nd.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Director Foley.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank the GM and staff for holding the town hall meeting yesterday. It was really a great event. The one piece of feedback well, 2 things. Continue doing it. I think it's great. One of the things I came away with is obviously some concern from staff around transit funding. And so I think everything that you can continue to do to help communicate with staff around our financial future is critically important. When we use the word layoffs, people get very concerned. So I appreciate that level of communication for them. Thank you.
We absolutely will. Director Foley, thank you for those comments.
All right, so this will bring us over to item 5, which is our administration items, and I will go ahead and let Director Lee take over.
Thank you. So we have 2 items today. Both are for information. 5A is the FY27 Operating Alternative Service Plan, a presentation on the Retirement Incentive Program evaluation work that staff has done. And 5B is the FY27 Capital Budget Overview. As staff mentioned, we are working towards getting that budget approved on June 11th. Before staff go, I just have a couple remarks here. In the past few meetings, I have noticed that we've gone a bit long on some items. It's a little bit been on me, which has had an impact on our board meetings, like having to continue some other items on our agenda. I also really want to make sure there's a balance to the voices being heard across the board. I know some of my board colleagues have probably felt a little bit shortchanged on speaking time. And I know for today, President Hernandez also has another commitment she needs to get to later today. So I'd really like to get through the admin items while you're still here. So with that in mind, I am going to have a suggestion of no more than 10 minutes of speaking time per director. You obviously do not need to use all 10 minutes because this meeting would still be incredibly long if we all did do that. But if you do start hitting that sort of 10-minute mark, I will gently ask you to wrap up your comments and, as needed, take the discussion offline with staff. So if you had 30 minutes of Q&A, comments, et cetera, lined up, please try to narrow it down to the things that you think are really critical that the rest of your board colleagues hear today that will help us get to making the budget decisions we need to come June. So with that, staff, please go ahead with 5A.
Thank you, Chairperson Lee. So as you mentioned, these are we have two information items. The first is a follow-up to the board discussion that we had at the February workshop and the subsequent board adoption of the FY27 Alternative Service Plan. And so I'll turn it over to Chris Simi. He's BART's Budget Director. He'll walk us through the Retirement Incentive Program evaluation.
Hi, good morning, directors. Christopher Simi, Budget Director here. So again, today we'll walk you through some analysis and a recommendation on something we were requested to bring back to you during the board workshop in February. To ground us in the overall context, we're going to discuss whether in the event the November revenue measure fails and BART eliminates over 1,000 positions, if a program to incentivize longer tenured employees makes financial sense for the district. And again, this is only something we are considering in a measure fails scenario. You will probably recall that at the board workshop, when staff presented our alternative service plan, which again covers what BART would do in the event the November revenue measure fails, there were a lot of follow-up questions from directors. So over the course of April and May, staff are bringing these follow-ups to you. We've covered our strategy for prioritizing loans, deferrals, and reserves. We're discussing retirement incentive program today. And in a couple weeks, we will discuss potential impacts to the capital program. And just the last context slide here is just a reminder of how we would be cutting in the alternative service plan. With this many positions being eliminated, unfortunately, layoffs would be an inevitability. The idea was to evaluate whether we could find a way to minimize or mitigate those layoffs and potentially even generate some additional savings by getting some staff to retire, the idea being that each retirement could offset a layoff. And so this is the staff recommendation. We did a lot of analysis on this, but we didn't really want to bury the lead or get too confusing. So we're just going to start off with our recommendation, which is that we do not recommend pursuing a retirement incentive program at this time or in November. The key concept here is that third bullet. So as we saw in the 2021 DRIP, the biggest savings come from abolishing positions that people have retired out of. That's not the case here, since reductions need to happen either way. In this case, a retirement merely substitutes for a layoff rather than generating any additional or incremental savings. And in fact, we actually found that retirements would generate more costs in this scenario than savings, which would lead to the need for further reductions, kind of making a vicious cycle there. So over the next few slides, I'll get into specifics and how we approach this. First, we needed to figure out who would participate in such a program. So we have about 1,500 people who'd be eligible to retire on December 31st of this year, but we know that not all of those people will. So we narrowed it down to a smaller group considered likely to consider retirement, and that consists of 205 current employees. And you can see the thresholds we set here under the second bullet. And so I'm going to start just on the analysis part here of a kind of directionality before we get into specific numbers. Each row on this table shows something we track when we cost this out. The first three were generally where the savings are. So eliminated positions are going to be your largest source of savings. A person retires and their now vacant position goes away, which generates a budget savings. In the event a position is backfilled, the next two apply. So new staff generally come in at a lower salary and they kind of move up over time. So we call this step savings. And then you also generate savings just due to the time it would take to backfill somebody. More complex and really dependent on individual choices is the impact to retiree health and retirement actuarial liabilities. And these really depend on the specific individuals that retire, their age, and how many years of service they have. And then finally, that last row there is incentive payments. These are generally required in order to get people to participate. So the way I think of this, is if somebody is well past their retirement date, their assumed retirement date, there's probably a reason unique to them for that, why they're choosing to continue to work. Likewise, if someone were to retire earlier than their assumed date, they'd be taking a hit on their retirement income. And so in either case, an incentive is generally what gets that person to kind of get over the line on retiring. And finally, to anchor us in 2021, the last time we did a program like this, we've realized about $12 million in savings since then. I wouldn't call this a game changer with our finances, but it's certainly helpful. And these savings really came from the top 3 lines, which were greater than the cost on the bottom 2 rows. So again, staying a little bit anchored to the 2021 program, let's see how that stacked up against what we're talking about today. The first 2 columns show the 2021 DRIP, while the 2 columns on the right-hand side show how it would work. And when I say today, I really mean in November. The top 3 rows are what matter. And so as I mentioned earlier, since we need to eliminate the positions anyways, we cannot count any incremental savings on the top line. The next 2 lines are irrelevant in this case because we won't be backfilling anybody. And so that leaves us with just the actuarial liability increases, plus whatever we would need to incentivize people to enter the program. And on those incentive payments, just for context, in 2021, when we had 287 people retire, BART paid out $14 million in incentive payments. So my second to last slide here is just sort of the actual dollars from the last slide. So those rows are now columns in this table. And we looked at 4 scenarios based on take-up assumptions around those likely to consider the program. So we don't, of course, know what the sum of the individual decisions to do a program like this would be, but for the purposes of this analysis, we just frankly pick some arbitrary 100, 75, 50, and 25% of the people we thought would be eligible would take it up. And you can sort of see all those numbers here in the costing. And of course, the way the math works, so the costing is that this would cost BART money. It would not generate any savings. And the way the math works, which I think is a really important piece here, is the more people who participate in the program, the more it would actually cost BART. And so, just to get to the conclusion here, I won't read through this slide, but to conclude, again, staff does not recommend pursuing a retirement incentive program at this time. I'm of course happy to take questions. I went through that a little bit quickly to respect everybody's time, but I'm happy to go into details on anything should you guys have questions or comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think my board colleagues will agree. We really appreciate the additional work and analysis here. Before we go to board comments, can we go to any public comment? I have no speaker cards for in-person.
So we do have one member, Glenn Overton.
Okay.
President Hernandez, General Manager Powers, and directors and staff. As JQPC1, I appreciate transparency, honesty, responsibility. I appreciate that. I appreciate due diligence. But at the end of the day, we also have to consider the possibility of shutting things down. I'm all for that. If you can't pay for it, lock it up. But who's the one whose responsibility that is? That's the voters. You don't want this service? Shut it down. And then after the results, don't squeal. Keep your mouth shut. Take your pain.
Do we have any online public comment?
We do have one, Alita Dupree. Alita, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Janice Lee and members. Alita Dupree for the record sheet. Herwood Team Polls. It is important that we talk about this. I hope this situation never comes to pass, but yes, I'm going to talk specifically about retirement. I don't know that we should have a retirement incentive. I really don't know what the minimum age to retire is. I retired at 46. That's 4-6, not 5-6, 4-6. And I certainly think that with uncertainty, there are some people who are looking at retiring, certainly as I did. Certainly one thing that might get people going is I certainly share of Take the Money and Run, which is a song by Mr. Jerry Rafferty. And he said, take the money and run and buy yourself a place in the sun. And he was talking about life in New York City and public transportation, people taking their transit authority pensions and buying places in the sun within New York City. I think some people are certainly going to be considering the words of Mr. Rafferty and taking the money and run and buying their place in the sun. The thing is that because the uncertainty, when you have people leave, and backfilling can be very difficult, especially in positions that require deep levels of training, especially if you have to replace train controllers. We can't afford to lose any of them. So I think people are going to retire anyway. But we have to remember that whatever decision we make has to reflect the people system. Thank you.
And that was the last public comment.
Great. So we'll go to board discussion. If you have any questions or any comments or any thoughts, I think that given the staff recommendation, it would be helpful to hear if someone feels very differently than the staff recommendation. I have no board speakers here, so sort of looking. All right, Director Ames.
Thank you. So, Chris, can you go to slide 2? I just want to understand. Let's see, slide 2. Yeah, this one talks about the 1,170 positions is estimated as a reduced workforce. And this number obviously resonates with a lot of employees, so this is quite scary to see this number. And with Ms. Dupree mentioning there's a lot of uncertainty if there's some backfilling, there's uncertainty of people who are going to retire. And personally, I think, people might be looking around the agency saying, well, are we top heavy? Maybe there's some folks that need to leave the agency. They could retire. And this, this uncertainty would diminish at some level. So I want to go back to that span of control audit the OIG asked us to do, which is to show all the employees in the agency. And I do appreciate we're trying to reduce our head count, which we did for this budget cycle. So I think we're reducing it by 60 employees, roughly from 4,600 target to 60 FTEs less. So that's great. But the fact remains that we could be top heavy. And I know, Bob, you had agreed, you kind of nodded in the audience, but you didn't really say anything, but you agreed to try to get the span of control audit completed with the org charts. I could be misinterpreting you when you nodded that you thought we should look at this. So can we get that kind of information so we have some level of certainty of what our organization looks like? And we're not talking about what positions are being laid off. Just so people can see the organization as a whole, and then they might do their own interpretation of whether they should retire or not, or whatever their life decisions are, because this is quite an unsettling time for staff. And I know I did this, in my previous employment in Palo Alto. And we went through every single position in every department. And it is a very tedious task, but it does show the agency if they're top heavy, if we have too many managers with not a lot of direct reports. And it's not just that. Maybe people want to move around and go to a different department. So there's a lot of information sharing that happens when your organization is more transparent. So that's my general comment. Yeah.
I would say I want to make sure that we are not interpreting body language that is not caught in our meeting minutes. So I do want to make sure that, Bob, you have a chance to respond.
With all due respect, Director Ames, I think the vast majority of what you're talking about and asking for, if not in its entirety, has been provided to this BART board in a couple of different formats and over the span of, the last, 6 or 7 months. And I would point you to the preliminary budget memo that went out from AGM Harehold with all the organizational charts in it, all the positions, all of that in there. And in addition to that, the links in those documents to other documents within, Pam's portfolio and Joe's portfolio that show span of control, organizational structure, and all of that. And so if you're, if you have questions on that material after, I'm assuming you've analyzed that and digest all of that information that was sent out to the board as was requested by the BART board, I'm happy to have Pam and Mr. Simi sit down there and walk you through that data. But I would encourage you to look at the materials that were sent and see if that isn't what you've already been asking for.
So Bob, I did do this with staff last year, and I am asking you again, maybe I need to meet with you directly and we can go over my concerns, because I did do this before. I asked for the org charts last year, and we have general org charts. It does show the head count per department, but we're talking about details of each division in the departments, the details all the way down to the last employee in each division and each department. So that has not been done. That's why we have an audit. And you were going to provide that in 2024, and then it got postponed. So it's a lot of work, and I would be happy to meet with you directly on this.
I am happy to bring you into my office, Director Ames, and we will sit down and I'll bring staff and we'll spend 3 weeks going through that information if you want to. But I would ask from you, what is your intent of that effort, and what is your expected outcome? Because I can walk you through all that information, but I hope it's just not an exercise in time. I need a little bit of control on time management, Director Ames, on that thing, and I want to be very respectful. But I'm happy to have you come into my office, and I'll bring Pam and Chris, and we'll have at it.
That's great, because I just explained why, and it won't take
Oh,
very
it's
long.
going to take. You'll be there for 3 weeks, Director Ames, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Director Ames, do you have any other comments on this?
No, that was.
Any other
That's
board
enough.
directors have comments on this? All right, seeing none, I'll close by saying that I do really, where we started in February with the board workshop was sort of a no ideas are bad ideas. We are in a difficult time. Let's, get our ideas out there, tell staff to look into them. I do really appreciate that staff has done that, and now we know whether, some of our ideas were fiscally good ones and might not be. Seeing that there's not a whole lot of discussion from my fellow board members here, it seems like we generally are in agreement with, from your silence, I am sensing that we agree with the staff recommendation that this is not something worth pursuing. If you feel differently, you better say this now and not on June 11th. So given that, I don't think that there is a majority of this board that is asking for a deeper dive into the headcount in order to be able to align or not align with the staff recommendation here. Personally, I have brought up Attachment C from our prelim budget memo, which shows department by department breakdown, including headcount and the differentiation between the operating and capital budget and it's not the big departments, it's like, individual smaller departments. I think that this level of detail is more than enough for me to have a better understanding of what our organization looks like and how that shows up in our operating capital budgets. I personally don't feel like I need any additional information at this time to be able to, figure out whether I agree with the staff recommendation or not. So with that said, looks like we can close this item and head to 5B, the FY27 capital budget overview.
All right, thank you, Chairperson Lee. Joy Sharma, the interim AGM of Infrastructure Delivery, and Anis Melange, the Manager of Capital Financial Planning, are coming up to present the fiscal year 27 capital budget overview. So again, this is an information item, and we look forward to delivering the information.
Good morning, directors. Today I'll walk you through BART's fiscal 27 capital budget, which reflects our continued focus on reliability, safety, customer experience, and delivery of our major programs and ongoing projects. Shown here are the sources and uses, with sources at the top and uses at the bottom. In the second column is the adopted fiscal 26 capital budget approved by the board in June 25. And the third column is our current projections for fiscal 27. As shown, the fiscal 26 capital budget had more than $1.1 billion in planned investments. And in fiscal 27, we're projecting a little less than $820 million. Capital spending naturally fluctuates year to year as capital projects move from planning and design to construction and closeout. Notably, over the last several years, BART has been replacing and expanding our railcar fleet, and in fiscal 27, we expect delivery of the last 59 railcars. As such, in future years, we'll see a shift from large expenditures in our railcar procurement program to large expenditures in train control and communications and traction power as we move into construction of the core capacity program. As we see variability in our uses, we also see fluctuations in the sources, as each capital project has a unique mix of funding. While we see changes in sources and uses, what remains constant is a net zero result year over year, as our capital budget is fully funded with sources secured in prior fiscal years. More than 70% of our planned investments in fiscal 27 are towards our major programs. These 8 major programs should be familiar to you. These are programs that we track and report on in the Capital Projects and Program Status Report, the CPPSR, and that we frequently refer to. Our largest investment, as shown here, is in the Core Capacity Program with more than $250 million in planned investments in fiscal 27, followed by the Railcar Procurement Program. Network modernization is an emergent major program and aims to resolve network issues across the BART system. We're currently developing a full funding plan to support seamless deployment. Almost 50% of our planned fiscal 27 investments is in system reinvestment or state of good repair investments, emphasizing our commitment to system reliability and safety. As I mentioned, the capital budget is funded with sources secured in prior fiscal years. In fiscal 27, almost 65% is funded with regional, local, and BART sources, and the remainder with federal and state sources. This points to a very diversified funding portfolio. The fiscal 27 capital budget is made up of over 230 distinct capital projects. These 6 shown here, with expenditures greater than $20 million in the fiscal year, represent almost 60% of the total planned investments. Over the last several months, there has been a pause in railcar delivery, which has shifted some expenditures into fiscal 27. But as I mentioned, we expect that fiscal 27 will be the last year with significant railcar expenditures. The largest investment continued to be in the Core Capacity Program, a major program that I highlighted in the previous slide. We'll see final expenditures towards closeout of construction for the BART Police Headquarters, where we expect move-in towards the end of the calendar year, and towards the San Francisco escalator replacement, which replaces 40 escalators in the downtown San Francisco stations. Beyond these major investments, or the remaining $328 million of planned investments in fiscal 27, focus on improvements to the customer experience and critical state of good repair needs. We continue to make investments in stations with more than $66 million in planned investments, continuing to invest in elevator modernization, to rehabilitate station elevators, wayfinding, and access improvements. The majority of remaining investments invest in state of good repair, again underscoring our commitment to system reliability and safety. Again, our capital budget is funded with sources secured in prior fiscal years, with only 3% funded with programmed funding secured but not yet allocated, including federal formula funds and BART capital allocations. Delivery of our capital program depends on aligning multiple funding partners for each project. In fact, we have close to 30 distinct funding partners that are supporting our fiscal 27 planned capital investments, each with unique requirements, timelines, and constraints. The following represents the main pillars to our funding strategy. First, our grants and funding advocacy team is focused on maximizing competitiveness for external funding. We advance projects aligned with funding program requirements, package needs into compelling project and program bundles, and phase or segment projects to pursue smaller funding opportunities. Second, we prioritize fully funding ongoing projects, those that are already in construction or under contract. Third, we focus on the customer experience. Our top priority is investing in state of good repair. We also invest in low-cost, high-value investments, including station glow-ups and lighting to stations. Finally, we leverage BART funding. Notably, for every $100 of Measure RR funding, we leverage $200 of external funding. I'll turn it over to Joy Sharma to review capital delivery.
Thank you, Anais, and good morning, directors. And in this part of the presentation, we are going to cover capital delivery progress, fiscal year 26 accomplishments, and fiscal year 27 priorities. So as you saw in the previous slide, and what Anais mentioned, the board approved fiscal year 26 capital budget was $1.12 billion. We will frame fiscal year 26 plan and overview in two ways here, by number of projects and by investment level across the CIP categories. From a project count perspective, the largest share of projects in construction is in tracks and structures, which is a core infrastructure, followed by stations, a highly visible program, and traction power, which is of course essential to running train services. From a budget perspective, the largest investment, nearly $500 million, is in rail cars, followed by train control and communications, including CBTC, and then station improvements. Another key takeaway and a very important noteworthy point on this slide is that fiscal year 26 marks a major shift from planning and engineering to delivery, with nearly half of the projects, that's 50%, advancing well into construction. Last slide reflected what we planned, and in this slide, we are reviewing fiscal year 26 performance, comparing what we planned versus what we spent and what we delivered. So, and to ensure a comparable view, we are looking at the first 9 months of fiscal year 26, as we are still in fiscal year 26. That's why the budget shown here is $924 million compared to $1.12 billion, which was full year board approved budget. On performance, we are seeing a strong alignment on labor, with only a 4% variance between plan and actuals. In non-labor, the variance is 30%, which is largely driven by rail cars. We were only able to spend about half of the planned budget due to delay in delivery of rail cars, which is specifically tied to international border clearance issue affecting nearly 60 rail cars. Graph at the bottom of slide represents that outside of rail cars, project's performance remains very strong, with most categories tracking closely to the plan and demonstrating solid execution across all the capital programs. This is another closer look at the fiscal year 26 budget that shows 42% of expenditures to date are in construction, which is self-performed as well as contracted out work. Another 40% is in materials and equipments, largely driven by rail cars, and combined, about 82% of spending is directly supporting construction and system deployment. Total 10% of the cost you see is in engineering, construction, project management, and admin, and 8% is in consultant support. On a side note, we are advancing value engineering and through active industry engagement. In the past 6 months, we partnered with contractors on major projects like East Bay Traction Power Substation, East Storage Yard, and we will continue this approach for upcoming major programs, including elevators, K-line interlockings, and platform screen doors. We plan to come to board with outreach results for platform screen doors prior to fall this year. We are also leveraging alternative delivery methods to drive better outcomes, such as CBTC is through design build, BART Police Headquarters is through the progressive design build, Fairgates was successfully delivered through a phased approach, and now it's being applied to the East Storage Yard. So with industry experts, we are navigating today's market, closing funding gaps, and keeping projects moving fast on scope, schedule, and budget.
So by now, it's very much evident that we are boots on ground in fiscal year 26. We completed 33 projects and kicked off 2 new ones with progress spanning across all CIP categories in a very consistent manner. Also important to highlight here, progress on some of the executed board contract amendments. Right-of-way fence hardening between San Leandro and Hayward was $4 million board-approved change order and was successfully completed in just one single quarter despite permitting and material challenges. Associated infrastructure for traction power and train control, which was approved for $8 million following the San Leandro fire event, is underway and on track to finish by end of this fiscal year. 34.5 kV cable replacement at Oakland Y kicked off construction following December 2025 board approval. I would like to emphasize here that these remarkable contract amendments are the fuel that keeps the work moving at full speed. They unlock the fast-paced delivery, help us tackle challenges like cost escalation and changing market conditions, and keep us one step ahead. And that is the goal, and that is the win. These images show real on-the-ground results from fiscal year 26. At the top left is award-winning next-gen fare gates delivered well ahead of schedule, and we will come to board with full updates on the fare gates refinement and station hardening project in June or July of this year. West Bay traction power with Civic Center substation already in revenue as of March, and Montgomery coming online next month, both of them strengthening system capacity along M-Line. Market Street canopies with all structures completed, transforming downtown from construction zones to finished welcoming spaces. KTE substation at bottom left is now fully replaced and it's online. And finally, pictures of the board-approved contract amendments work, such as traction power and train control in San Leandro and A-line right-of-way fencing work. I will also take a point in a moment at this point to thank our labor partners and contractors for helping make fiscal year 26 such a success story. Looking ahead, the preliminary fiscal year 27 capital budget, as Anais mentioned, is approximately $818 million, with nearly half dedicated to service and capacity enhancements, such as the CBTC project. The other major focus is system reinvestment, continuing the critical work of modernizing and renewing the core system, such as the escalator replacement project and other traction power substations as the Walnut Creek substation. So fiscal year 27 keeps the momentum going. We are maintaining construction in full swing approach. About 21 projects will break ground and 8 will complete construction, again driving continued visible progress across the system, across all CIP categories. And building on previous slide, this is fiscal year 27 in action. The A85 interlocking project will begin construction this summer and will completion targeted for early 2027. And you will hear more about this project today in the E&O items. Other major projects breaking ground include the complex K-line interlocking located at the heart of Oakland Y, along with core capacity major investments such as the East Bay traction power substation and $500 million East Storage Yard. At the same time, we will see major completions with BPD headquarters and modernized operation control center crossing the finish line, ready to move in, come online, and support day-to-day operations. Finally, these are our 2 flagship multi-year FTA-funded programs, and both of them are making exciting progress. Railcars is very close to finish line with all 1,129 cars expected by end of this year. CBTC, we are continuing to build strong momentum and make substantial progress. We will provide board full update on CBTC soon. However, we're pleased to report today that we are on track to deliver the first phase of CBTC into revenue by year 2030. And on that positive note, this concludes my presentation on the capital delivery overview. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this detailed presentation. Let's go first to public comment. And while we're doing public comment, I'd ask my board directors if you'd like to make a comment, use your tablet thing.
Okay, our first public comment is Glenn Overton, who will be followed by Alita Dupree.
President Hernandez, General Manager, Directors, staff. You know, that's a small price to pay for infrastructure that keeps on paying. If it was up to me, you get 4 billion. What's 800 million to such a contributory system as BART? I just if I was one of those guys, one of those tech giants, I just fork it out of my spending money. You could put a brass plaque on it. Give something back to the Bay Area for what we have contributed to world economy. Last time I researched world economy, it was like 130 trillion, plus or minus 2 or 3. The United States was like 30 trillion, plus or minus 2 or 3. California was almost 5 trillion. We had to keep those figures in mind because what the Bay Area gives out, we don't really get back. And you think about that. This is where Silicon Valley started. It was little people who contributed to that effort. And now it's a global enterprise worth trillions of dollars. One machine to create the iPhone costs $400 million. And you're talking about $800 million to fix this system? You gotta be kidding.
Okay, our next public speaker is Alita Dupree. Alita, please unmute yourself.
Thanks again, Chair Janice Lee and members. Alita Dupree from the record sheet, Harwood Team Folds. I speak to you with standing and experience. I claim 56 years of experience in public transportation, beginning with the subway. We are winding some work down. Still, 800 million is a lot of money, but I always think we can do more. I think about how in New York they have a $68 billion, that's $68 billion capital plan. We're not as big, but how do we stay ahead of things? It is the things that we don't see that I really advocate for the most, such as the work with the electricity, and we're doing the work with signaling and communications-based train control. I mean, we don't have any 1930s era signaling because we weren't around in the 1930s. But that's a big deal in New York, moving past 1930s era signaling. I don't know if we have any stations left that are lacking the 88 platform strips. If we are, we should certainly do that. And I support elevator modernization because I believe that elevators should be for everyone, and they should always work. And in thinking about electricity, about opportunities for us to generate electricity, to put solar panels on roofs and spaces that we can put them on. I think we used to have a power plant years ago, and I guess it was closed and demolished. I'd like to find out more about that. But capital is essential, just like they do in New York. Our capital plan should always speak of the idea that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
That was the last public comment.
Thank you so much. We do have a few board members looking to speak, so I am going to institute the 10-minute suggestion time. So we have Director Ghosh, Flores, then Wright.
Hi, thank you. No, just very impressive work. Great to see so many projects in the delivery stage. I know how much heavy lifting it takes to get it there and then to troubleshoot, as we saw with the gates. So just want to thank you. I found the slide 12 very interesting. I think I had a question about how much work we're able to do in-house versus how much is contracted out. I'd love to dig into that a little bit more in the future. I want to make a pitch that if the measure passes and BART survives, that we do more advanced glow-ups at all our stations. The canopies in San Francisco are beautiful, and I would love to see some investment in for one of my husband's birthdays, we took the yellow line, we got up at each station, and we looked at the stations, and you could see the changes in how we build stations from some of the early ones, and they have really iconic designs. Like Glen Park is one of my favorite stations, you know, just some paint, but also like, I think it's either marble or granite. But then you go to like Concord, it's all concrete. And I think over the years, we have value engineered so much that we've lost some of the charm that we might invest in for our station. So I hope we can do that and bring some of that iconic design back to our stations, whether through glow-ups or even more major investments in them. Not all stations feel like happy places, and I would love for them to feel that way. And I just wanted to also say I'm mostly looking forward to the conversation at our next board meeting about the relationship between the capital budget and operations and what kind of flexibility might exist there. That was one of my main questions coming out of the board workshop. So no questions right now, but looking forward to that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ghosh. Director Flores?
Thank you all so much for the presentation. It's exciting to see all the work that's happening to modernize our system and make sure that it's in a fully functioning state and not with 50-year-old tracks and systems that have been around forever. One of the things I'm the most excited about, which I think I mentioned in last year's workshop, was the platform screen doors. Is there anything you can share at this moment about that outreach, or will we receive more information later?
Yeah, no, I can share something. So our legal and procurement department are reaching out to the contractors at this time. It takes like about month or month and a half process, and we will bring contractors on the table to discuss the topic, and we will have questions for them. They will have answers for us, and vice versa, and we will provide board an update by August or September of this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Director Wright?
Thank you. I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I really appreciate the investments that we're making in our system and our reliability and our customers' experience. I think this is such a critical conversation and such a critical set of priorities. Aside from kind of the bread and butter of track maintenance and system modernization, in particular for my district, I want to express my gratitude in the investments in escalator modernization and elevator modernization. Aside from the canopies, which also protect that infrastructure, that's been a transformative impact for our Market Street stations, which don't just reflect my constituents. Those are the busiest stations for the entire system where many of our trips are going. With that said, I did also just want to acknowledge that as our general manager mentioned, we've been doing outreach for this hopeful rehabilitation project for our plazas in the Mission. And what we've expressed as the bare minimum outcome is doing some resurfacing for the pavement for one of our plazas at 16th Street. Right now, that work is not reflected in our capital budget. And we've got, I think, a $16,000 line item for pavement at our 16th Street Plaza just to cover some of the community outreach. I don't think it even fully covers a design process. So I am hopeful that we might be able to identify some amount of funding to support what I view as really critical ongoing work here. And just wanted to express that early in this process before, we're trying to finalize our capital budget. But again, really appreciate all the work that's come into this.
Thank you, VP Wright. Director Ames?
Thank you. I would like to go to slide 2, please. Yes. So just to recap, we have a 10-year investment plan for our capital program. So we had a document that was done in October 2024. It goes from FY25 to FY34. And it outlines all the investments we want to make each year. In addition to that big picture plan, which looks like this. And this is what, I know Sylvia worked on this. We have an unfunded capital need that grew from 10 billion to 14 billion. So now this is a 10-year window now. So we're talking about FY25 to FY34. Our unfunded capital need is 14.4 billion. So it went up 4 billion. And in order to basically keep up with the investment and not create an unfunded capital need, we have a 10-year investment plan. So if I go to the 10-year investment plan, it basically highlights these categories here. So train, control, and communications, we have a planned investment in here that says 515 million. This is saying 162. What, am I right about that? Train control, 196. We have traction power at 175 in this capital program, and this says 50. Oh, sorry, this is 2 years. I'm looking at the wrong year. Sorry. So the FY26 we've been following pretty rigorously, except for Joy, you might know this. The traction power was half the budget for FY26 in the investment plan. So sorry, I'm looking at FY27. So train control and communications, we had 515 million there for 27. Sorry, I'm not talking about 26. Traction power, we have 175 million. They're saying 88.7. Stations, we had 297 million investment planned. Stations here show 109. So track and structures is 199. And we're showing this last column, 85. So we're not doing the investment plan that we hope to implement. This assumes a measure passes, right? We're investing in our infrastructure. So I do hope that we reevaluate the needs here, because we are pretty much on track in FY26. But FY27 is dramatically different in a lot of categories that I just pointed out. And this is all according to this document here. And if you go to the appendix A of this document, this is the final FY25 capital investment plan, 10-year plan in quotes, FY25, FY34. So I would just encourage folks to look at this appendix and the investment plan that we outlined, because we're not following it rigorously as we did in 26. So FY27 is very underfunded. That's all I have to say. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Joy, or...
No, just thank you very much.
I think that Director Ames is asking a reasonable question here in trying to understand the discrepancy between a previous CIP and what is in the FY27 capital budget. I know that you will go much more in detail when you present our upcoming CIP, but...
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, maybe that was a bit brief, but...
a little bit.
What we are doing is, this is the fiscal year 27 budget, and it reflects the available fund sources and the work that is planned and prioritized on a continual basis by the Office of Infrastructure Delivery. Yes, we do have the CIP that was published 2 years ago, and that does contain information on a projected year-by-year expenditure. And so 2 years ago, those numbers, and I'm not crosswalking them exactly with the conversation, but they're here in the document, did reflect our projections, our forecast of work that could be performed over the next few years. I believe that the table that Director Ames is referring to is a constrained need table, so that should reflect the funds that are available. But I just want to note that was 2 years ago. We will be back in front of the board with an updated draft capital investment plan that'll look very much like this at the end of June. And so a lot can happen over 2 years. And I just, I'll let Joy jump in to talk a little bit about how she prioritizes. But the plan that we will be bringing in front of the board in June and this budget do reflect the priorities and the funds that are available today. So Joy can speak to a little bit about how she prioritizes.
Yeah, so when we develop the capital budget director, so it gets constrained by many sources, which is like one Pam mentioned, it's always what's the budget that's available to us for next year and what's our capacity to do. So such as like system access, that's always could be a big constraint. And even the industry, it could be constrained. Like there's definitely not too many contractors who can build too many substations in Bay Area at the same time. So there are so many constraints, and then we have to see what we can deliver, what we can reasonably plan, and if we can reasonably deliver that. So that's done in the first quarter calendar year of every year. That's the capital budget process, and that could differ slightly from what CIP plan gets done, like 2 years ahead of it.
Yeah, I would just take another stab at this and try to figure out how we can get more in pace with our investment plan. But thank you for trying to rehash this at the end of June. I just think we need to do a little bit better than what we're showing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ames. I appreciate the point that you brought up, and I'll bring my comments to the presentation, when you do present the CIP. If we are, if past CIPs are constrained, as I know they are, it would help to understand what has happened in the last 2 years. Were grant sources different? Was there new federal funding formulas that changed? Were we going after something significant and didn't get it? Or was certain work delayed because something else happened? I think that should be explained, especially when we are talking about pretty significant variances between the CIP versus actuals. The only question I had before we close up this item is, we are looking at the FY27 capital budget. How is this impacted if we do end up in a measure fails alternative service plan world?
That is a good question. That is the third piece of information that we're bringing back to the board, coming out of the discussion at the workshop and the adoption of the alternative service plan. So Joy and Sylvia are developing a deck that we'll bring to the board at the next meeting that will discuss some of the plans for the capital projects under I guess our plans to approach capital work should the measure fail, and also the potential for load shedding, which means, moving some folks off of operating over to the capital program.
Thank you. And echoing some of the comments that Director Ghosh made, we have hundreds of millions of dollars of capital investment in our books already with secured funding, projects we have been talking about, projects that we have approved, and we want to be able to do that work. And so I think it's important to keep talking about the capital investments we are making and have planned in the future as part of our communications. With that, let's close admin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Lee. And then now wrapping up to item number 6, which is our engineering and operations item, and we'll turn this over to Director Foley.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, we have one information item before us today with 3 related action items that I will hope to take with a single motion. And with that, I will turn it over to staff to give us an update on the A85 interlocking project. Sylvia, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Chair Foley, and good morning, directors. I'm here with John McCormick, our Director of Ops Planning, and Joy Sharma, BART's AGM of Infrastructure Delivery, and I will just turn it over to Joy to do the presentation.
Good morning, directors, once again. So today we will provide an overview of the A85 interlocking project and present 3 recommendations to the board for approval under a single vote. So this is today's agenda, which outlines the key items we will cover. The project scope includes replacement of running rails, spatial track work, 4 switches, a crossover, and associated train control and traction power components at the A85 interlocking located between the Union City and Fremont Station, just north of the Fremont Station. This work is critical to replacing aging and degrading infrastructure that has become a recurring maintenance and reliability challenge at this location. The project will reduce escalating maintenance needs while improving both system reliability
reliability and operational capacity. One good piece of information is that we already have procured the spatial track work for this project, and we are excited to move this into construction now. So this slide shows the major track components that will be replaced. At the top are the 4 switches, which let trains move from one track to another. Also shown is a double crossover, which let trains move between the 2 main tracks, just like a connector ramp between 2 highways. And below are the supporting track components, including frocks at the crossover, the point where tracks intersect and train wheels cross from one track to another. Also shown are rails, ties, ballast, and key train control and traction power elements, such as third rail, cover board, and junction boxes. Together, these are all the core components of the interlocking that will be replaced in this project. And for clarity purposes, we have included a full glossary at the end of this presentation. So I'll walk you through the key construction stages of this project. We have structured the work around 5 planned weekend shutdowns, which we will cover in more detail in the following slides. Before weekend shutdown is the pre-shutdown phase from May through July, which basically focuses on preparing the site. This includes staging the construction area in the adjacent BART parking lot, staging crane, and decommissioning the switch machines. So you will see a big giant crane as early as in June or July in Fremont Station parking lot. We have vetted the proposed weekend shutdown schedule against all major events. That said, we'll stay flexible and may shift a weekend from August into July or September into October if a significant patron impacting event comes up. The weekend shutdown phase is when the majority of the work takes place. This includes demolition, site grading, installation of switches and the crossover, placement of concrete ties and ballast, as well as third rail and train control work. And finally, the post-shutdown phase from October through February 2027 will focus on site cleanup, site restoration, and recommissioning of the switch machines, bringing the crossover back into full service early next year. All of this work is being delivered through close coordination and a highly streamlined effort between our labor partners and contractors. So this is a 5-weekend shutdown plan. As noted on the previous slide, we have flexibility to shift weekends as needed. And a point to note here that we will not perform any track work in the first weekend of August. Revised date for that weekend work, that is August 1st and 2nd, is yet to be determined. Each shutdown is a focused 51-hour work window, kicking off early Saturday at 1:30 a.m., that is when the last train departs Fremont Station, and wrapping up by 4:30 a.m. Monday morning, that is when the first train comes back to the Fremont Station. We will tackle the switches first. The first 4 weekends follow the sequence shown here, and then complete the crossover in the 5th and final weekend. And this slide outlines a traffic handling plan. The construction staging area will be located just north of Fremont Station and will be secured with fencing beginning as early as end of May or early June. Throughout construction, pedestrian access will be maintained along the sidewalk between tracks and the parking lot, supported by flaggers and clear signage as needed. Vehicular access will also remain open in both directions with temporary pavement delineation guiding traffic safely in and out of the lot. Parking impacts are minimal here. The areas shown in blue will remain fully available, and while approximately 163 currently used spaces out of 939 parking spots will be temporarily used for staging, there is sufficient capacity in nearby daily fee lot to absorb this demand without affecting any reserved or ADA parking. During the weekend shutdowns, we will implement a bus bridge. To maintain connectivity, we will operate both direct and hopper shuttles between Union City and Warm Springs stations. These shuttles will run every 20 minutes, time to meet arriving trains and minimize any waiting times at the stations. We will also update the trip planner to reflect these changes, and additional staff will be deployed at stations to assist passengers and ensure a smooth travel experience. For communication and outreach activities ahead of the shutdowns, the Government Community Relations team will implement a comprehensive outreach plan to proactively inform riders, businesses, and the surrounding community, ensuring clear communication, minimizing disruption, and avoiding any surprises. And finally, these are the 3 recommendations to the board for which we are seeking single vote. Item A seeks authorization for the general manager to award the spatial track work, assembly, and grading work, including the build-out for the crossovers and switches, to Stacy and Vic Pack of Alameda, California, in an amount not to exceed $499,000. Item B
seeks authorization for the general manager to award for amount not to exceed $2.5 million in one-year service agreements for the on-call construction support, including crane rentals and other heavy equipments procured through existing competitive procurement procedures as outlined in the EDT. And item C seeks authorization for the general manager to execute a change order with DMC Builders for traction power and train control work associated with the A85 interlocking in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million. And that concludes the presentation.
And then I'd like to just add, if I may, this project is critical to continuing service reliability for BART's customers. And as Joy mentioned a couple of times, the schedule is flexible. We have already changed that first weekend schedule, and there may be other changes to that. So what we're asking for today to be voted on is approval to award the contract not related to the schedule. So just wanted to clarify that.
Understood, and thank you for the project update. Do we have any public comment?
We have two public comments, one in person with Glenn Overton, who will be followed by Alita Dupree online.
President Hernandez, directors, and General Powers, staff. This is very interesting to me because it brings back the time when I used to play with my HOs. Boy, I used to have fun, but you know, I used to go at it in a mischievous way because I was always trying to burn them down. You know, short them out and cause trouble. And I grew up being a very responsible human being. But people fix things. The irresponsible thing would be to overlook this, let it fall apart, then we fix it. We fix things. Things wear out. We wear out. Check your body. Which part of you would you defer? So again, I can't emphasize the fact that whatever price we pay for these renewals is well worth it. And it's always really more than just an investment in our future. But it is a gift to our future generations who will be using this system. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
And next is Alita Dupree. Alita?
Thank you, Chair Mark Foley and members. Alita Dupree for the record. She and her with Team Folds representing Spirit Folds. I think back to February of last year. I took an early morning flight from Los Angeles up to San Jose Airport, saved about $150 versus Oakland, that I decided then to take BART to your building in Oakland for a Clipper meeting. And I endured some slow orders along the line, and I think they were on this section. So again, this is a situation that we have to address, and we're including work with traction power in addition to the work on the interlocking itself. I expect meticulous communications and meticulous practice with our bus bridge. I remember when we had some work going on at MacArthur, and I was on one of the buses, and it got to MacArthur, and the driver missed the turn, and it didn't really affect me because I was going to just staying over in Emeryville, but for some, they could have missed their train. So this has to be all hands on deck with this work. And sometimes we do have to close the system. During my weeks in New York, there were several sections of the subway that were shut in their entirety. Several miles worth of lines, mostly basically in the outer boroughs, sections of Brooklyn and the Bronx mostly, where there were total shutdowns because we're dealing with infrastructure that's as old as 100 years. But I want this work to be projected and flavored with the idea that BART is the people's system.
Thank you, Alita. Do we have any additional public comment?
That was the last public comment.
All right, let's turn to director comments. I'll start with Director Ames, followed by Director Flores.
Well, thank you for trying to alleviate the maintenance issues related to Fremont area. This is my district. And I'd like to just go to, I think it was it slide 2 that had, slide 5 that had the schedule. Yes, so thank you for not having any closure on the 1st of August and the 2nd. That's the Festival of the Arts for Fremont. It's a huge event. And I just want to also convey my concern of having the 15th and the 16th. This is, if you look on Fremont's website here, I'm just going to, it's the Festival of India, Mela, and Parade. It starts at 10 a.m. On the 15th, and it starts again on the 16th at 10 a.m. And, you know, Fremont has a rapidly growing Indian community, and often Fremont is noted as being number 2 in the Indian population in California, with San Jose number 1. So I would really encourage us to revise the schedule. Perhaps you can alternate and go the 8th and the 9th and the 22nd and the 23rd. It's up to you. But this is a big impact for my community, for our community, I should say. And I appreciate you doing this work. Obviously, it's necessary. So I'm all in favor of doing this work. It's just I would like you to finesse the beginning of these 2 dates in August, number 1 and 2. And I know you're working on that, but thank you.
Thank you. Director Flores, followed by Director Rayburn.
This is more of a procedural question. Since we have 3 motions across 3 EDDs, can we pass this through 1 motion, or do we need 3 separate motions?
Either is fine. Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Rayburn.
Thank you, Chair Foley, and I'm supportive of the project overall. We're looking at about up to $4.5 million in the contracts and service agreements that this motion would include. But overall, there's a lot of other costs that aren't included here. I understand we have some procurement that's already occurred. We have upcoming bus bridge operations. Can you give me an estimate of the overall cost of this project?
So the total overall cost for this project is $15 million, Director, and that's reported in CPPSR as well.
Okay, thank you. And I want to share my appreciation that you included a vendor list that shows the small business. You show 8 small businesses, but each one of those, I believe, would be under 100,000. I didn't see them on our excluded list. Or could some of them be?
I think what the
over
board is
that?
approving now is, we would do an informal process, but it could be over it because you're approved. He's got 100,000 authority. We're asking for additional authority for that.
Okay. Well, I want to encourage that we honor those small businesses, that they get a piece of the action and get their nose under the tent and learn about working with BART. And there's an esprit de corps that occurs in the construction trades with people who can say, they put stickers on their helmets of projects. And so make sure that we have, maybe a sticker out there for the 85 projects. So I want to push that we really reach out, benefit the community, and at the same time, of course, minimize the disruption. And I'm sorry that there's no other way to get 51 hours in a weekend of wrench time. So finding the exact weekends, I've looked at the schedule and tried to make sure that there's nothing that I know of that would be in conflict or impinged upon. So I'm willing to move the 3 items as a unit.
It's been properly moved. Did I hear a second? Director Ames is seconding. Director Ghosh.
We had a really good briefing. You all answered a lot of my questions, and I know that staff is really looking forward to this project getting completed, so I'm fully in support. I think one question that came up for me after our briefing was the cause for the wear and tear. I think you said that it was maybe because of the construction of Warm Springs Station that this section had seen more of wear and tear. Is that accurate? And if so, I'm just wondering, going forward, how could we mitigate that kind of wear and tear? Or is it just part of the construction that we do?
Yeah, so our records did show, Director, that the Warm Springs construction, there's a lot of single tracking needed when the construction happens nearby. So this crossover was used, of course, for the single tracking, and then there's some wear and tear. But then there's, of course, everyday use as well that leads to it, so, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd add Mike Gibson, our Chief Maintenance Officer, is in the room as well. So one of the things that he's doing is looking at how do we stay ahead of this. That's part of using our rail inspection vehicle and different things. But there is a certain amount of wear and tear that's just going to happen, as we go.
Director Ames, did you raise your hand again?
Oh, no, I just wanted
Okay.
to, sorry.
All right, good. I think everyone has had the opportunity to speak, so let's go to the vote.
Director Ames.
Yes.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Ghosh.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
Director Reed's absent. Vice President Wright.
Aye.
President Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. President Hernandez, this concludes E&O, and I'll turn the mic back to you.
All right, thank you, Director Foley. And then we will go to item number 7, which is our public comment at this time.
We have a couple hands going up. The first is Barney Smits, followed by Alita Dupree. Barney, please go ahead.
My name is Barney Smits. I'm a licensed professional engineer with over 25 years experience as a BART engineer and fire life safety expert. I have informed this board numerous times about the BART to Silicon Valley project with its safety, financial, design, and management crisis. VTA's waste, fraud, and abuse associated with the BSV2 project should be clear. Based on these facts, VTA will never get the FTA funding to build the proposed single-bore monstrosity. Thank you, Director Ames, for bringing up the BSV2 project variances. I hope that the board reviews my comments on the 14 variances that I received through a public records request. One of my reviews points to the 2023 reduction in critical elements of the emergency ventilation system. Based on the documents, this change did not even get a vote from the Safety Committee. This critical safety element will never be as safe as the current BART emergency ventilation system. BART's safety standards are above and beyond the normal codes, but have been significantly reduced in the project's design criteria manual. These variances and code changes are a significant reduction in safety and should be fully reviewed by this board. The variances that I received detail a significant reduction in safety that could endanger BART patrons, employees, and first responders. But what about the indicated 36 other variances? What safety risks are being buried in these deviations from codes and standards within these variances? You should be asking BART management and VTA why they are not being clear with this board, BART patrons, employees, and first responders about the significant safety risk that VTA and the BSV2 project are incorporating into this faulty design. A year ago, Mr. Edwards issued a letter rejecting the Newhall Yard's design changes. BART should issue a similar letter rejecting these variances. Thank you.
Okay, we have Alita Dupree, who will be followed by Glenn Overton. Alita?
Thank you, President Melissa Hernandez. Alita Dupree for the record. She and her with Team Folds representing the Skirt Folds. A good meeting today. Got a lot done. I like it when we get work done. It's very important. I did write you some more letters. I hope they kept you entertained and gave you some valuable information. Mostly because I want to give you context of who I am. And such is instrumental in me founding my comments to you. Sometimes it is not easy. I expect meticulous adherence to procedure in meetings. If I raise my hand to speak, I expect to be called on at the appropriate time. Because if I am not, such leads me to believe that my standing is impaired. I can understand that some people might not be happy with the fact that I skipped fare on the New York City subway in 1980 and 81. But I speak of paying fare on various systems today. I am an ordinary user of BART. I'm very different. I simply wish to have the fullest of standing, as anybody would have, because I come to you sincerely wanting to help shape the conversation of helping us to build the best BART that we can have. Anyone should want that for our BART. I want a BART that will truly be successful. And I believe in shaping conversations by elevating conversations. And we do lots of good things in BART. And we have many good people that I have been fortunate to come to know with BART. And that should all be elevated. It only takes one. I ask that no one slight or backhand me. I come to you with respect because I want to share sincerely what BART means to me. Most of all, that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
And that was my fault to call you out of order earlier during the consent calendar. The next speaker is Glenn Overton, followed by Roland.
President Hernandez, General Manager Powers, staff, directors. I wish I could fast forward to 2035 when VTA is finished, but I can't. I wish I could. I wish they'd get that over 50-foot tunnel boring machine out of storage. Start that thing now. Get it over with. No further delay in VTA. I didn't mean to rhyme that, but that was cool. No further delay in VTA. Get that boring machine out of storage. I don't know how many of you guys had any tunneling work. I have. Well, very small, just 10 miles underground, for underground river at Philadelphia International Airport, for the river tide to back up in so we wouldn't flood the airport. I've laid rail. I've done sewage systems. This is working for contractors. So anywhere from the dirtiest construction to the cleanest, I've worked in better than class 10 clean room. So, but let's get that VTA today.
We begin and end in poetry today. Our next speaker is Roland.
Thank you and good morning. So what I would like to do is explain to you in layman's terms the importance of distance between cross passages, rather than just hearing about BART engineering standard. And I'm going to explain to you, obviously, from my background in Europe. When you have a fire, the first lines of defense is the train itself. And people need to be able to go up and down the train until they get to a point of evacuation. In Europe, we don't go around opening every single door to the train. we do open one door. It's the one that is closest to a cross passage. So it is important that the distance between cross passages does not exceed the total length of the train. And I'm going to close off in mentioning the Channel Tunnel. There have been 4 major fires in the Channel Tunnel, including one of them that essentially melted the tunnel liners and put 1/3 of one of the tracks out of order for 18 months. There's never, ever been a single fatality. Yeah, there are some people, ingested some smoke, but that's about it. And the reason for that is that even though the cross passages are 375 miles apart, the minimum length of a train is 400 meters, so that people can always go to at least one cross passage. And I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
And that's the last public comment.
All right, thank you so much. And so, not having any more public comment, we will move on to item 8, which is our board matters. Item A, board members' reports. Any board member reports? Director Lee.
Hello. I usually don't give board member reports, but 2 things that I think are important to celebrate. One is today is Bike to Wherever Day. That's Bay Area wide, and so I hope everyone has a chance to get out there, ride your bike, enjoy this beautiful weather, keep it up, and just want to thank BART for always partnering to make Bike to Wherever Day happen. I'm sure some of my colleagues have some more to add on that. May also is AAPI Heritage Month, so celebrate the AAPI folks in your lives and learn more about AAPI history, because Bay Area is really the start of so many movements. And anyway, I'm just happy to celebrate. I did do a bunch of stuff in the last week. I just want to note a couple things. Thank you for BART's participation in the Equality California San Francisco Awards this past Saturday. It's always great to connect with folks, and it's always great for BART to have some presence there. I know Alex Walker was there, had a chance to chat up former BART board member Rebecca Salzman for a while. Always good to see her. And then also this past Tuesday evening, BART was invited to speak at the Merced Extension Triangle Neighborhood Association. It's the OMI neighborhood. It's like this little portion of San Francisco right at the Daly City border. If you know where H Mart is, or where you get off the 280 to enter San Francisco, it's like that area. I was there along with the head of SFMTA, with San Francisco's assessor recorder, giving a bunch of updates to that neighborhood association. Dozens of folks there. I was joined by Mark Nagalis on our GCR team, and they were super receptive, asked great questions. Many of them are very regular BART riders, and they were all really invested in BART and the improvements that we are making, and a lot of them said that they really saw the improvements. So great to be out in the community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. Dublin just opened our H Mart, and it is packed. Like, I've never seen a parking lot so packed, but it's doing great. So, yes, I also went, and I'm sorry I'm going ahead, and I don't usually say too much during board matter reports, but I did attend the PAPA event in Dublin, and it is, I think we should all do our part to at least embrace this month, but definitely was a beautiful show that they provided for all the residents. So, any directors, please raise your hand because I cannot see it on my screen. Director Rayburn.
Thank you, President Hernandez. I had a number of events since our past meeting. On April 26th, I joined with AC Transit Director Murphy McCulley in the Estudillo Estates in San Leandro, and we answered questions. It was just a Q&A session, but I wove in quite a bit of our presentation into the mix. On the 28th, I attended the San Leandro Mayor's State of the City On the 30th, I joined the Transform All Aboard event at Nido Backyard in Oakland. On May 1st, I went down to Hayward again to the Cannery Tower where the old Hunt factory was, and it's now a development with over 1,000 homes in what's called Sienna Parkside, and they hold a movie outdoors, and it was a lot of fun. I was able to give a presentation on BART. It was brief, along with, I called out the bingo cards for them. On the 6th, I was at Hayward's Bart Todd open house during the commute peak. The GM mentioned we had almost 200 people participate. It was lively, and I like that format. I like seeing people, and I went back this week for the AM commute peak. It was a little smaller group, but I think we probably touched quite a few people that didn't have a chance to hear about the project on the 6th. On the 7th, I was back in Hayward at the Hayward Chamber with a presentation with AC Transit. And also on the 7th, that evening, I went to the Oakland Multicultural Chamber Mixer at Scott's Seafood. On the 9th, I was in San Leandro at Families United and gave a presentation and also received an award. I was honored for the good deeds. And Families United is very interested, of course, in small business participation and all things BART in their backyard. The 12th, I was another Bart Todd participation in the morning at Hayward. And on the 13th, I participated in the Capital Quarter Vision Plan for 2026. And this morning, I had the joy of riding my bike with just my wife. We had to jet off. I wanted to get here early. I ditched the pedal pool back at Fruitvale, but we had council members, county supervisors. I saw a lot of people on the road this morning, and it's all good. I thank BART for supporting this annual event, celebrating that people utilize bikes on a regular basis. It's part of our sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Foley.
Thank you, President Hernandez. In addition to attending yesterday's employee town hall, I gave a BART update to the Antioch City Council. I also attended last week's Contra Costa Transportation Authority's countywide community-based transportation plan update to the community. I wanted to give a shout out and thank you to Travis Engstrom for your support for the OIPA software request that they're going through. So thank you very much for helping guide them. And then lastly, I know folks that are working, not me, but folks that are working are looking forward to an upcoming 3-day weekend. And I just want to remind folks to take a moment to pause and to reflect on the meaning of Memorial Day. That's all I've got.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Director Ghosh.
April 28th, I presented at the Richmond City Council meeting the briefings that we've been doing around New BART and also our alternative service plan. April 30th, I was there at the Richmond Senior Transportation Workshop. A lot of the questions there weren't necessarily about BART, it was about paratransit, and it really reminded me to look more deeply into that. There were lots of questions around paratransit. From there, dropped into the Bike Month launch at downtown Berkeley, BART Station Plaza, and then ended with the Transform All Aboard event with lots of great transit advocates, and San Mateo Supervisor Noelia Corzo was the keynote speaker. It was just great to see representation beyond like the East Bay. On May 6th, I met with a group of undergraduate UC Berkeley students who are working on a survey to better understand the impact of BART shutdown on students, and looking at both the University of California, Berkeley, but also at Peralta and beyond. They're also looking at it through a lens of equity, and so far the data they've collected shows that over 90% of folks would not have any alternatives if BART were to shut down. So they are continuing that work. I hope to get some support from BART staff on that to be able to sort of work with them. I think that kind of data is invaluable to understanding the true impact of our alternative service plan moving forward, especially since so many students use BayPass now. It would be devastating for a lot of our student community. And then last night, I presented at the San Francisco Bay chapter of the Physicians for Social Responsibility. Again, did a similar briefing. You know, there's just so much going on, and a lot of the folks in that committee are focused. They're like physicians, they're public health folks, very focused on things like air pollution and equity, so keeping them aware of what a region might look like, especially on those subjects, felt important. And this was sort of a follow-up after I presented at Richmond Rising. Someone from there, the co-chair of this subcommittee, was there and then invited me to speak at their environmental health committee. And there were some great people there, very active and motivated, and asking lots of questions about why we don't fund transit better. Which I know we all have the same question. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Flores.
Thank you, everybody. On April 28th, I went to the Rockridge Mosaic Project unveiling. So I just want to say thank you to Jennifer Easton and Henry who is on our external affairs team, and then as well Casey Farmer from the Rockridge Planning Committee, Miss 40 from Claremont Middle School, and the artist Eileen Fitz-Faulkner, who helped the students create their designs and put them on our trash cans. I know a lot of BART staff have probably seen them as they've been doing the work, but if you hadn't had a chance to check it out, that would be a great experience and reason to take BART to Rockridge. I also learned through that project that there's a neighborhood peacock in Rockridge that is just out there gallivanting around. On top of that, on the 30th, I went to the Bike Month kickoff with my colleagues and then the Transform All Aboard. But on the 2nd of May, I attended the California College of the Arts San Antonio studio. This studio took a look at how they could redesign the Oakland San Antonio neighborhood to improve services, amenities, and most importantly, what it would look like with a San Antonio station, BART station. They did use our station design guidelines from what they told me. And when we get the slides, I'd be happy to share with BART just to see the great work that they did and the cool designs that they had. On the 6th, I went to the Impact 510 Visit Oakland presentation on tourism in Oakland. I also presented about BART's fiscal situation to the Uptown merchants here in Oakland, and then spoke at Claremont Middle School for the end of the year presentations to thank them for the Mosaic Project. May 7th, I attended the Multicultural Chamber event at Scott's Seafood, and on the 9th, I went to the Equality California event in San Francisco with our colleagues here. And then the 13th, just yesterday, I went to the Oakland Chinatown 39th Spring Banquet. Thank you.
All right, VP Wright.
Thank you. Happy Bike to Wherever Day. I walked by one of the Energizer stations on my way to Civic Center this morning, and it was vibes were great. That is what I will say. On April 23rd, I attended the groundbreaking for the Marvel and the Mission 100% affordable housing development immediately adjacent to one of our plazas at our 16th Street station in the Mission. And it is just so meaningful to see this project finally break ground after more than a decade of work and organizing by the Mission community to make what once felt impossible possible. Last week on May 5th, I presented to the student government of Skyline College on our fiscal outlook and our progress on providing cleaner and safer stations and faster and more reliable service. On Saturday, as others have mentioned, I attended Equality California's Equality Awards. But what was not mentioned is that this year's awards were co-chaired by our very own, my predecessor, the Honorable Bevan Dufty. And I won't tell him, he forgot. And as the general manager mentioned, last night we held our latest community meeting on the project to improve the physical conditions of our 16th Street plazas and the Mission, for the first time presented entirely in Spanish. I want to thank Charlie Castillo for leading that presentation and interpretation, and also thank Sergio Ardila, Tim Chan, and Bradley Dunn for their work supporting this event. I also want to thank all the community members who joined us, especially those that partnered with us to make that event possible, which includes the Mission Street Vendors Association, La Raza Community Resource Center, Claro, and Calle 24. This was not the first, and it will not be the last opportunity for the Mission community to shape the direction of this project, and I'd like to invite everyone to join us for our next community meeting next Thursday, May 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. at Friendship House Association. And finally, shout out the American Indian Cultural District for all their leadership in making sure that this project reflects the deep history and the contemporary role that Native tribes play in making and keeping this public space. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all that information. Not seen, I just wanted to make sure no other directors wanted to speak during this time. I will go ahead and ask if there's any roll call for introductions. Not seeing any. And we have no in memoriam. I will ask if there's any public speakers.
We do have one, Joe Kunzler. Joe?
Thank you, District Secretary. Thank you, board members. Joe Kunzler here. I'm going to be very brief, and I don't intend to use my full 2 minutes of regulation, but I wanted to call in, hopping from Sound Transit meetings to yours for the Magic Zoom. That I just want to advise you, Bart, that in the coming weeks, you're going to be asked to license your Fairgate technology because Sound Transit in the Puget Sound area is looking to be more trust-tastic with Fairgates that actually work and can be installed quickly. So I hope you're ready to put your Fairgates in a box and ship it out. So good luck out there, and may God continue to bless and protect all the employees of BART. Thank you.
That was the last public comment.
All right, seeing no other public comment. Come on down. I really want to say to the Price is Right.
President Hernandez, directors, General Powers, staff. I applaud everyone sitting here for giving their lives to public service. A time of reflection for these people who are giving their lives to public service. But what is our future? What is our future without a dream? If there's 8 billion people on the face of the earth, there are 8 billion dreams. Can we meet every one of them? Should we even try to attempt? Do we even know who they are? Do we even know who lives in the Bay Area personally? Here's a set of people who have dedicated their lives to people who they don't even know. I applaud your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
That was the last public comment.
All right, great. Not seeing any public comment, we will go to item number 9, which is our closed session. We will now be entering our closed session under items 9A and B of the agenda. And do we have any public comment?
There are no comments right now for closed session either.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are reconvening in open session, coming back from closed session. There is nothing to report from closed session, and as of 12:24 p.m., this meeting is adjourned.